Welcome to the Food Junkies Food Addiction Summit.
Here we aim to provide you with the experience, strength, and hope of professionals actively working on the front lines in the field of food addiction.
The purpose of this summit is to educate you and increase overall awareness about food addiction as a disease with abstinence as the solution.
Every day for the month of October, we are sharing one inspiring speaker or highlighted food preparation video from the incredible Tony Vasallo of Moda Nutrition Inc. and the Real Food Revival Movement.
We have 4 weeks of interviews with the leaders in the field of food addiction, clinicians who are working on the front lines, registered dietitians and nutritionists that are working toward bridging the eating disorder and food addiction camps, and people just like you and me.
Here we talk about all things food addiction recovery. Most importantly, how to thrive rather than just survive.
So stay positive, make a change for yourself, tell others about your change, and hopefully the message will spread.
And as Vera always says,
the power is ours.
All right, we are so excited today to bring you Charlotte and Frida from, you guys need to pronounce it. Your company name.
Leva sockerfri.
Yeah, that's why. Sugar-free living. And so on our Food Addiction Summit today, we are talking about clinicians who are making an incredible difference in the food addiction recovery space. And these two are top-notch. So can I get you guys, I don't know, you guys can pick whoever wants to go first. How has food addiction impacted your life, and can you share your aha moment?
Well, I'm a sugar addict and I have been it all my life. I have a lot of moments to tell about, but I can tell you when I start thinking this must stop somehow. I had an argument with our teenager. It was like 10 in the morning. It was a Sunday. So we have lots of candy in left from the weekend. And we were having this argument, and afterwards I was just running to this candy and ate it. And my husband came into the kitchen and said, "What are you doing? It's like 10 in the morning. We haven't had breakfast yet. What are you doing?" And I was like, and did something else. And after, I don't know, 15 minutes, I went back to continue eating. And then he took it away and put it somewhere else. And I couldn't say anything. I couldn't ask for it, but I was so ashamed. And then I felt I have to do something. This is really sick. And that was an aha moment for me, because then I realized that I needed to do something. So I went on a course. I think it was just like a month after or something, with Bitten Jonsson for 4 days. And it was a punch in the face, actually, because then I realized that even alcohol had been a new problem for me, and I hadn't seen that before. So yeah, that's a moment I'm remembering and will remember for my life, rest of my life.
And so can you share just a little bit of your recovery journey with us too, like for our listeners?
Yeah, this is 7 years ago. So I went on this course for 4 days, and I realized that if I don't do something about this, I will die too early. So I quit the sugar eating and the alcohol. And then I realized that I want to work with this. I want to help other people. And it's really good for me to do that, because it's easier for me to stay sober if I'm helping others and have to be like what do you say?
It's a recovery factor for you.
Ja, men som en idol liksom. wouldn't look very nice if I'm eating.
Not a good role model.
No. So that's it's good for me to do this work. It's not. I get more back than I give. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think both Molly and I feel the same way. So Charlotte, can you share kind of how food addiction, sugar addiction impacted your life and what your aha moment was?
Yeah, I can do that. I come from quite a different angle because I'm one of these odd people, odd persons who's not a sugar addict in this business.
We need people like you too. That's the truth.
Well, my big aha moment was after Frida and I started to work together. My thought was that, well, let Frida handle the addiction part, and I would just work with the food part, because that's where my heart was, at least at that point in time, to make new recipes and be good, have a lot of knowledge on the nutrition side. And then after a couple of months, after we started working together, Frida told me, no, Charlotte, you have to understand what addiction is all about. You can't just leave that part and focus on the nutrition. And she booked me on a 2-day, it wasn't a detox, it was more lecturing from Bitten on addiction as disease. And I went to Stockholm, and I participated in these 2 days of lectures with Bitten, talking all 2 days. And after that, I came home and I was basically just doing like this, circling around myself for a week. And just, shit, this is a real problem. And this is so big when we look at it from a wider perspective, from society and human development, and where we're heading as human beings. And that was such a big moment for me to really realize that. And after that, I decided, okay, Frida is she's going the holistic addiction medicine route with Bitten. And then I thought, okay, we need to make sure that we have quite a broad base. So I took the education. I took an education on alcohol and drugs instead. So I became an alcohol and drug therapist, so that we cover more than one base basically, and can take some of the traditional treatment methods and apply that on the food addiction and the sugar addiction.
So how did the two of you even come together to begin working together? Like, how did this partnership become what it is? Was it because you're neighbors? Okay, well, yeah, we learned that. How did this idea of sugar-free living, like, tell us kind of a little bit of the backstory there.
Well, the backstory is that Frida, she started her own company working with, would you say, massage and lash lifts, and then, the beauty salon. And I knew that she was an entrepreneur, and I was working as an engineer and had been doing so for all my life.
For too long.
And I'd really come to a point in time where I said, I need to do something else. I don't know what I want to do, but I want to start something. I want to start my own business. And I didn't have a clue how to go about doing that. So I went knocking on Frida's door and asked her if we could just go for a walk and just, she could explain to me how to get started, basically, in forming a company and what do you need to do and so on. And that was a heck of a long walk. And we're still walking.
every morning.
Yeah, no, I think that's so beautiful. And I think it really lends to where, my next question, as far as like, how do you two work with clients, and what have you found, what works best, what doesn't work so well? And I imagine having an engineering background and having more of a like a person-centered, like tactile type background for you, Frida, that coming together, there's a very interesting matchup there. Can you guys talk about how you work with clients, what works best, what doesn't work so well?
Yeah, a lot of our clients says that we are what do you say? Complete each other,
complement each other quite well.
Yeah.
Well, what works and what doesn't? How do we work? Yeah, what we realized listening to a lecture with Paul Early was that we actually are working with his chronic disease maintenance model, which, well, we didn't know that there was a name for it. So that's something we've developed over the past, 6 years that we've been cooperating, that we've been working together. And as a company, Leva Sugar-Free Living, well, we've had that for the past year. Before that, we worked in our own separate companies, but working together. So during this time, we developed this chronic disease maintenance model, which Paul Early also developed. And we've seen that is this holistic view, and looking at it in the long-term perspective is really what is effective. And what we see that doesn't work is having this enormous food focus. What to eat, what not to eat, and when, and so on.
A lot of clients are just talking about the food, and the food is not the solution at all. You need to know what to eat, but it's not the solution.
No, that's basically the foundation for it, because you can't be in recovery if you don't have control of what you eat and know what to eat and what not to eat. But that's not what's bringing recovery.
No, and we also started with 3 days detoxes with clients, and we thought it was really good by the time, but afterwards we realized that you can't do much in 3 days, and if you don't have follow-up, they will stay sober for 3 months or maybe 6 months if you're lucky, but after that they are back in old habits. So that's not working. You can't do this you can't do it for 4 days or 3 days. You have to do it for a longer time.
Right. And like treating it like a chronic disease, right? And I think that this is what's so important. I think I love that you're also alcohol and drug trained, because it's the disease of addiction, right? It's not just about the food. And I think it's so important to highlight that. And would you ladies speak a little bit about, I think you just touched on it, can be a very intensive disease when we are right in it, but it's also a chronic disease. And so it needs a chronic treatment. I also love that what you said about the Paul Early, because I feel like Molly and I we were creating this program and we're like, hey, he's doing what we're doing. But really, no, we were doing probably what he created a long time ago. So is there something that you guys went into thinking, like, this is how you treat sugar addiction, that now after years of working with clients, you realize, oh, I kind of had to have some shifts here around the way I'm treating this disease?
Well, basically, we started out working with the base of, if we built the knowledge of the addiction disease and then tools around food, we're done. And then we could just let the clients out, and they're off they go, and they're good for life. It showed quite fast that was not the solution. but initially we thought that would be where we would have our competencies and where we could actually contribute. And then over the years, yes, this has grown, and what we see really is the things that are important is that we need to follow the client and be able to create something that can work both in group and with individual parts in the treatment. Make a combination so that each client is being seen and treated with the issues that are relevant. So
Go ahead. Yeah, so I was going to ask then, so figuring out what works, what doesn't work, what have you had to be more flexible with? Do you guys work primarily then with groups, one-on-one, a combination? How has that changed over the years?
Well, we started in groups, and now it is a combination of groups and one-on-ones. And I must say, Corona did something very good for us, because we were going in a certain track, and we were having we were establishing this chronic disease maintenance model, but we were very focused on doing things on location. So we had group sessions on location here in Linköping. We had it in Spain. Went for a 1-week retreat to Spain, and brought clients from Sweden. And with Corona, we got the time to sit down and read and write the book that we have written in Swedish, which is a solution book to learn to live sugar-free. Yeah. And we also got the possibility to really resaddle the horse and create a lot of our program online, which means that we have basically we can run we can have people admitting themselves for a week here with us as part of a treatment, or if they are not close to Linköping, then they can participate online, and we can basically do everything.
And we have more courses as well. Mm-hmm. If you need all people need different solutions. So if you need to work with your shame, or if you're codependency or emotions, it's a big issue for a lot of people to work with emotions. So we have courses for that as well.
Yeah. So I'm hearing you guys individualize it a lot. So like if somebody needs like a parenting, or how to navigate being a parent with children in the home, or grief and loss, those kinds of things, are those like what you're saying? You have modules for that?
If we can't do it ourselves, we have
we cooperate with other people who can. So we want to follow each of the clients and make sure that they get the treatment that they need. And if we can't fix it, then we'll call in somebody who can.
Yeah,
no, that's great. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I love that you provide them with like the support and resources that they need, because I think you're so right that like individual plus group approach can really be so beneficial for people, because, they might hear what they need to hear in the group, but it's kind of that client-centered focus that I think we all know really works the best if you want somebody to be able to stay in recovery. Mm-hmm. So what is something that you ladies do in your practice that feels unique in the food addiction clinical space?
I think there are lots of things that at least we believe they are unique, and maybe others might not think that. Maybe just as you thought when you listened to Paul earlier, you said, "Oh, he's doing what we're doing." That even though we think that we are unique, maybe we're not, and maybe that's not really the important thing, that it's unique, but that we are able to support the clients. But yeah, what's unique? Well, the long-term perspective that we have, I believe, is quite unique. Not letting go after 3 months or 6 months, but really having several years of perspective in the treatment.
Yeah. Usually 2 years.
Yeah.
Sometimes 3.
Yeah.
Sometimes
the
1.
normal
but
thing is 2 years. And then we've actually developed something we call the inventory of a toolbox inventory, because well, we're all individuals and we have different things in our backpack, in our history, and we are good at different things as individuals. So each person is equipped with a toolbox when they come to us, and we make an inventory of that. What do they have that is already going for them when they come to us? And then we also identify where there's room for development. And the room for development is really the eurekas for many, to understand that, I can also work here, and that is actually an aspect of my recovery.
And it's also a way to see that the food is only 10%. And because a lot of the clients are spinning around in this food wheel, and they will never recover. So they will not recover in the way that they want. Yeah, that's also a way to let them see that they can do other things to recover.
Yeah. And we can then use the inventory in our treatment, focusing on the things that really needs to be focused on to be developed as a factor for recovery, and not focus on the things that is already there.
And we also have the workbook.
Yes.
And that one is actually even in English. So everybody can download it from our web page and work themselves at home with recovery parts.
Yeah. Making an inventory of the personal situation, and figuring out, okay, what is it that I need to work with? What are the tools that I need to work with as a solution to my well-being?
Yeah, and it works best with our knowledge book as well, but it's in Swedish for the moment.
But the workbook is in English, and that could actually be used. Anybody could download that and use it at home, working for their own personal use. And well, as a therapist, I think that could also be useful as a work tool with clients.
Absolutely. And we'll make sure to link those so that when this airs for everybody to watch, they can click on that and get to your website so they can download that, because I have a copy of it and I think it's amazing. And you're right. Even as a clinician, I can use that and say, listen, try this worksheet. Look at this. Or even just kind of when I'm struggling with what to do next with a client who, like, everything I know to do to try, right? It gives me kind of a roadmap of like, oh, I haven't tried that yet. I should go try that. So thank you so much for offering that tool. It's great. Like you said, both for clients and for clinicians. So in your experience, and you guys said you've been doing this now for 6 years together, right? What is the number one factor to success in clients that you see do well? Like, what are the things that, like, you see these characteristics or these factors show up in clients and you're like, yeah, they're okay. They're doing well.
I would say that the foremost, the number one, is that the client is able to go into a long-term commitment.
Yes. You
mean not on another diet?
Yes.
No more diet.
No more diet.
Doesn't work.
A long-term commitment. And what we've also experienced the past year, I would say, is that we try to we not just try to, but we enter into this not saying you can do this or you can do that or you have to do this and putting up a lot of rules. Rather, we say, well, you can eat anything you want to. The question is, do you want to? And really build up the person from the inside so that they're actually having not the willpower, because that's not what it's all about, but bringing all the forces that each individual has into power, so that they're actually able to say no. And really walk the walk and talk the talk, and that is something that takes a while, and it takes a long while to develop that. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, I think you're speaking about having some self-compassion, right, in recovery, and that this is not a perfect journey and it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
And that, it does, especially with food. I don't know about you guys, but I know Molly and I, there's a little bit at the beginning with some experimentation, right, in terms of like, is this a trigger food? And like, dealing with that fear, if I do eat this, like what's going to happen? Because you don't want to be maybe too restrictive, but you also can't be too inclusive. So it's like finding that perfect fit for yourself, which takes time, right?
Yeah, it takes time, and it's different for everybody.
Yeah. I had a discussion with a client just recently. She was punishing herself because now she had fallen and she had eaten something that was off limits for her, some of her forbidden food. And we had a discussion about that, and we ended up envisioning this rope instead. Let me see if I can move this. There. You have a rope, and in one end, this end, there is the food that is the absolute best for you, that doesn't trigger, it's nourishing, it's top notch. And in the other end, there is the absolute worst food that triggers you and makes life hell, and you wake up 6 months later, and you know the drill. And it's not a matter of this or that, but there is something all along this rope. And the closer you get to the middle, the more difficult it is to figure out if it's good or bad for you and how it affects you. But basically, all food that you eat, you need to figure out where it is on that line. And it's not that you are doing something wrong or doing something right. It is a matter of understanding, is this food doing something bad for me, or is it doing something good for me? And when you do that, you remove the shame of being wrong, and you transfer it.
They have that.
Yeah,
the shame is there.
Yeah. So you can remove that, at least move that part, and make it. Well, it's about what you eat, not what you are.
I love that. Removing the shame and empowering the client in making informed choices, right? Yeah. Can I flip it a little and ask you, do you see certain qualities or characteristics in individuals that just don't do well, when even with all the tools that you guys are providing them with? Is there something that maybe you would say would be missing from their recovery program?
If they are feeling sorry for themselves, that's not a good way.
I don't know what the English word is, but we have a very good Swedish word. It's the word is offerkofta, and it means that you are you're putting on yourself you're being a victim, and you're taking on this victim coat, and it's very heavy
and wet
smells bad, and it smells really bad. And as long as you're wearing that victim coat, when you tell yourself that you're a victim, you're not empowering yourself to actually be able to do something about it, because then it's always somebody else's fault, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I was going to say yes. And from the world that I was from, I started out in the correctional world, criminal justice, right? So guys coming out of prison, and we had a word for that, and it was victim stance. So yes, exactly. I completely get where you're coming from with that word, that if it's always going to be somebody else's problem or somebody else's fault, I can't accept, own, surrender, whatever. I can't get started because I will always be getting hurt. And a lot of it is because of the story I've written in my brain versus what's actually happening. And so we need to reality check that. So a lot of what I heard from you guys is honestly, maybe that factor, not only is it long-term commitment, but it's effort. Like people who are willing to make the effort to stand up and say, this isn't working, this is working, whatever that might be. Go ahead, Clarissa.
No, I think that was perfect. I was just gonna ask, so we have our signature question that we would like each of you to answer, and it is, what would you tell a younger version of yourself about food addiction?
Well, I wish that I have asked for help earlier, because especially for my kids, because I wanted to eat, so I baked, and they ate as well. And if I hadn't do that, they have had, and it has been easier for them now to not eat a lot of junk food, I think. So to seek help, we all need that. And it's not, the quick fix doesn't exist. You have to do the work. And it's so worth it. It's so worth it. I've had a new life, and I never want to go back there. I'd rather die, actually. It's a big difference. So many things that impacts on your life when you're eating a lot of food you don't need. It's like I could be very angry, very angry. When it's just turn black like that. I never do that anymore. We had a lot of arguments in the family. We still have, not very often, but we have. But if we have them now, it's for real. 7 years ago, we had them, every day about things it's not important. So yeah, I could say a lot of things to myself, the younger me, and to stand up for myself as well. I never did that when I was younger.
I think that's a great answer. And I know, Charlotte, you didn't have food addiction in your background, but what would you tell yourself about a younger version of yourself, something about food? Because I imagine working in this field has completely changed the way you eat.
The way I ate actually changed before, because I come from having IBS, irritated bowel syndrome. So I grew up with a stomach that didn't want to do what I wanted to do. So, Frida and I have different issues, but the solution is the same. So my big, if we look at food as a specific, and I should talk to my younger self, it would be that it's amazing that food can mean so much and can do so much harm to your body if you eat things that your body will not tolerate. I lived for 40 years with stomach cramps and needed to have closeness to toilets and all that. And once I figured out what my body didn't want, it only took 3 days, and then I suddenly had a new life. And what my body didn't want was actually starch.
Yeah, it's like food is medicine, right?
Yeah.
I think that's why we are just so lucky to get to work in this space because, definitely we get to treat the disease, but we also get to see people take their lives back and just flourish when they are eating in this way.
It's so fulfilling. Yes, so fulfilling.
Best job ever.
Right?
That was actually why I quit my technology job, because I was sitting there working with international sales and traveling the world and having a lot of fun. But somehow I felt, who the cares? What does it actually do to people? It doesn't bring anything. I wanted to do something that made a difference.
Living a life on purpose.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I love it so much. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for being here with us today. We expect that people, our listeners, our followers in the Facebook group are going to love this interview as much as I'm sure Clarissa and I both have. I shouldn't speak for her, but I know, yeah, big thumbs up. I know I have for sure. And thank you again so much for being here. And we will make sure to link everything so that people can find you and get a hold of you.
Good.
Great. Thanks. It was a true pleasure to participate in this.
Thanks for joining us today on the Food Junkies Food Addiction Summit.
If you would like to hear more, tune in every Friday to the Food Junkies podcast, available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Audible, and anywhere else you listen to your favorite podcast. Subscribe so you'll never miss a show.
Don't forget to pick up a copy of Dr. Tarman's book, Food Junkies, which is available on Amazon.
If you have any additional questions, both Molly and Clarissa are food addiction professionals and work one-on-one with clients. Their websites and email addresses are available at foodjunkiespodcast.com.
As Vera always says, the power is ours.